What's up, Black Founders? I'm gonna make a quick video. Uh, so today was interesting. I was at the Juneteenth protest, and I'm recording from my room at the Millennium Times Hotel. I've been staying here working out my business plans and getting things together, trying to get my deck together, as well as inspiration. So I want to talk about inspiration, what inspires us. I think one thing that inspires us is a commitment to community and a commitment to our people. I said it enough. My eyes are so low. I don't know. So it looks like my eyes are closed, right? I promise you they're not. Um, Even when I was a kid, people would always ask me about my eyes. Like, I remember people would say I was high when I didn't even know what that meant. as a young, as a young boy, I didn't even know what that meant. Anyway, so, uh, so I know one thing that inspires us is our community, right? We want to see our community do better. We're seeing these movements out here, and it's pretty inspiring. Um, Also, when I speak to some of the older generation, there's still a certain level of fear. Um, there's a certain level of that this is going to pass. It does feel good to see multinational companies, you know, tweet out and put out, Black Lives Matter and show some level of support. Um, uh, it is very unprecedented, and a lot of us never thought we would see that in our lifetime. We don't make any mistakes how daunting uh, what the future holds us. You see, our interest and our commitment is to, you know, be equitable, have justice, and no longer have a bottom tier class. All right. Uh, Also, the commitment from the upper class, the higher ups, they have not lived out their responsibility as those who are privileged. They don't seem to care about housing costs and food deserts and things like this. Not care enough to prioritize it and really go after it. It's How do you tell a person to work a full-time job and that job will not be able to sustain them? It won't be enough to uh, pay rent and eat and you know move forward in life. Um, so one thing that I think about is I would like to see a world, you know, similar to the 1950s. I once read a Judy Blume book when I was a kid, and the girl was describing her family situation. It was her and her sister. She mentioned that they drove a Chevrolet, and her mother would always say, "Hey, a Chevrolet is just as good as a Cadillac or a Buick or something else." And also, her mother was at-home mother. Mother didn't work. Uh, they lived in a house, and her father was a cashier at A&P. All right. Uh, and this is why people romanticize about the 1950s, because that was a reality. If you were working at A&P as a cashier, for one, the register was considered high-tech equipment, and the cost of living was such that you could raise a family. Now, not rich by no accounts, but they had a home, they had a car, and they had a mother who did not have to work. Um, so what you seen in the 1950s, you would see a husband who worked, a mother who stayed at home, or maybe did part-time work. In some cases, you had career women, but the structure was set up to, one person working. All right, so for me, that's inspiration, because that's aspirational. I understand that a lot of the problems that plague where we come from comes from out of a place of poverty and out of a place of having less, not having enough, and having desires that are unmet, and looking out at our situation and not seeing a life that's reasonable. Right? Not being able to see something that's attainable, not being able to say, okay, I'm more than happy, working, at, company A or whatever, right? But me working at company A does not allow me to have a respectable, sustainable life or lifestyle. And I think that's wrong. I think the commitment to humanity should be that if you put in your fair share of work, you'll be able to live a respectable life, and not be impoverished, not be unable to get proper medicine and medical care if you get sick. So I think with a lot of us, black founders, there's always a certain level of social justice that kind of moves through the DNA of our mindset and what we want to create, what we want to produce. There's also a sense where we want to be authentically us. What I've noticed is, what I see as I research, what does not inspire me is that they're looking for a certain type of look, right? They want you to be a certain type of black person that they could relate to and they could believe in. And they feel that they're doing their part. They feel that they're, being inclusive, but it's very uninclusive, and it's very biased, and it's rooted in bias, and possibly tinged with racism. All right. We don't apply those same rules when we want someone to create the best music for us. And we don't apply those same rules when we want someone to perform for us in the sports arenas. And we don't apply those same rules when we want someone to show us what are the fashion trends. And we don't apply those same rules when we want to be hip and talk with the newest slang and the newest cool words, right? Those rules don't apply to those who study Black Twitter and how they teach courses on Black Twitter, and how nobody's seen and nobody understood like how we would use Twitter and how we would move the conversation with that platform, right? Nobody understands, mostly because people choose to hear what they want to hear, and they choose to listen to who they want to listen to until you make enough noise to be heard. So I feel inspired when I look at myself and I look at what I want to create and what I want to do. And I want to be me. That's inspirational to me. I don't want to talk a different way. I'm from New Jersey. I talk how I talk, right? My grandmother was from the Midwest, and she always, would laugh at our accent, right? Uh, you know, I have locks. I was in sales. They would always tell me to cut my locks, right? You would do better without those locks. Um, I felt that was just a form of expression of who I am as a person, and I didn't feel that. Listen, if it came between my son eating and my daughter having tuition for school and my hair, if that was like what was put before me, yeah, I cut my hair. You sacrifice for, something greater than self-expression. There are some things that are greater than self-expression, but at the same time, there's really not much, when you're being true to yourself, and if you're truly a beautiful person. I see people, changing their voice, changing their voice patterns, altering their look, for acceptance, and that's not cool, right? They don't apply those rules when it comes to a programmer. That person has a skill that's highly in demand, and the business world has no choice but to let this guy, work in shorts and flip-flops, long hair, long beard. They have no choice but to accept that. And to me, that's justice, that's freedom, that's equity. So as we move, hopefully we're moving into an era of where we're going to see, businesses headed up by, black men and women have an opportunity to get funded, and hopefully they can be true to self and true to form, because that would be liberating, and that would be inspiring and aspirational to me as a person, looking. Obviously, I hope that for myself. Some of our greatest minds come from every sector of the diaspora of who we are, and I feel that we're all gonna have to pull for each other and advocate for each other. And also, in one of my videos, I made a criticism of an Afrotech panel that I've seen, and I just want to clarify, if anyone has seen that video, I hope I didn't come across in a demeaning way or an insensitive way. The point I was trying to get across is that when you're not given the ability to succeed, when everything has to be bootstrapped, it's just another hurdle. It limits process, and it limits progress. So these are great minds who found a way to carve out a niche for them in this world. But if those great minds were given an opportunity, they could have helped carve out a niche and employ dozens and hundreds of people. But when this woman says, hey, I want to do something big, and they say, listen, yeah, you do great business selling your products on eBay. You do better than the average person, but we don't see a business in you. We and it's like, no, let that woman's creativity, her she's doing better than average business than most, working with the limited resources that she has. She's bootstrapping in some way is handicapping. It's like, no, fund this woman's venture, allow her to go to the next level and bring others along, right? And then that inspires the next person. It's about having opportunity. We have to foster a community in which opportunity is given. That's why I really appreciate those brothers at Harlem Venture, because I would not want to be a partner in that firm, because I know they have a daunting task, and because they're limited and they don't have the ability to fail. I'm quite sure, but I hope they succeed. I feel the money they've raised to give out venture capital, I feel people probably gave it to them based on a certain level of charity, a certain level of, let's just give these guys a chance. So I hope they succeed. But even with their firm, they're still bootstrapping, because they really can't invest in seed projects. They're not going to get to hear some of the best projects. I would much rather these guys get the opportunity to be called in on great deals that larger firms are moving in. We have to prop up our people, and for them to really get their feet wet and have that type of capital behind them, to whereas they could take on more higher risk businesses and companies, because it's a whole risk and reward business that we're in. And when you hamstring somebody where they can't take risks, how can they ever get the big payoff? It's impossible. Small businesses that are showing some profit, okay, we give them money, right? But they might not be rock stars. They might not take off. It might just be a decent small business, right? That's like kind of what they have to, that's the world they have to operate within. That's not it's somewhat flawed. They have to have the ability to take big risks. And I know those brothers are hearing some pitches and sitting down with some companies, and they have to, turn those opportunities away. And they say to themselves, man, I really want to give those people an opportunity, but we have to follow our guidelines. We can't do it. We can't risk it. And I believe that's what, if you were to ask them, one of the things that they, one of the things that bother them about their process is probably just that. It's probably that they can't do as much as they wish they could. You have to plant seeds, or else nothing will grow. All right, so that's my blog. It's my video blog for the night. It was a good Juneteenth. I'm gonna get some work in tomorrow, get some working on Sunday, and Monday it's back to all day, all night grinding. Later.